Yes, the Yes album, right now on States and Kingdoms. Welcome back to States and Kingdoms. Today we're talking about Yes and their third album, the Yes album.
I don't know if a band has sort of leapt forward from one album to another, figuratively.
Or
well, maybe.
literally.
But more than Yes, between A Time and a Word and the Yes album.
Might be true.
This album, I mean, I have no criticisms of it. It's one of the seminal rock albums of the 70s, of all time, whenever. Doesn't matter. But, you know, it's
the best album of the 70s of all time.
I didn't say the best album of the 70s. I said it's one of the seminal albums of the 70s.
Seminole.
It's one of the seminal albums. You didn't know they were Seminoles. It's one of the seminal albums of the 70s, Lisa.
Good old Lake Okeechobee in England. Are we done? Are we done here?
Anyway.
I have criticisms.
I have no criticisms of this album.
I hate it.
I really don't. It's really an extraordinary thing. You know, if you listen to the first two albums, you know, they're good in spots. You know, the playing is very good, singing's very good. You know, all of those things are there.
There's some nice songs.
There are some nice songs, but then like for this, and of course Steve Howe is, you know, as an addition makes a huge difference.
Yes.
But it's not. But a lot has to do with John Anderson developing as a songwriter and really just knowing where he wants to go with the music, I think. You know,
there's some very interesting choices on this album. I mean, I really, my period of Yes really starts with this album. I didn't listen to the first two that much, really. I really didn't.
I remember the first one. I do remember the first one earlier on, not the second.
I listened to it, but this is where it really got me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this album, Fragile for sure, and then
I think I assumed this was their second album.
Yeah.
After
I really didn't listen to that.
No.
I didn't. To be honest, I remember when I just started listening to Yes seriously. We went to see them in concert at Jones Beach.
Mm-hmm. Like 2003?
3? No. 2?
2? 1?
1? Blast off. It was a long time ago. I probably have this stuff.
I think 3.
It was a while ago. But I still...
No one cares about this but you and I.
They care. I guarantee you they care.
Let's keep talking about it. Was it 2004?
My point is... It was one of those, I'll always remember, one of those really magical, like, Jones Beach concerts where it's...
Freezing.
It wasn't, actually.
No, I remember it wasn't.
It was beautiful out, the weather was beautiful, the sun was setting, and I just remember they played Starship Trooper, and it was, like, one of those magical moments that, like, only happens with music. You know, it was really powerful and exciting, and, yeah, I'll always remember that. They didn't play Owner of a Lonely Heart that night. And I understand why, but I was super disappointed.
Steve Howe would have walked off.
He could have just, like, taken a seat and let us have our song. Mm. I really wanted to hear that.
I did want to actually look at the set list before we did this video. So good on both of us. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
In the description.
No.
Nobody cares.
Anyway.
On here, you don't have that, like, overtly classical thing happening, or jazzy, or, you know, like, symphonic. You know, like, it's not so, like, different from a lot of mainstream rock and roll all the time.
That's what I was saying. It is there, and you do start to have those things being brought in. You know, the opening of Yours Is No Disgrace, and
everything's starting to spread out, so they have a little bit more space to kind of experiment.
Yeah,
but the instrumentation is fairly, normal.
but also that it's not really utilizing the studio in the way. There's no like symphony orchestra or anything
No.
like on Time and a Word.
No, but well, I don't like the orchestra.
Well, I know we said that. I think.
Yeah,
probably.
We did. It's too much.
That's what's interesting. I mean, there are parts of this that, like I was saying, that could almost sound like Steely Dan. In fact, Spotify, apparently, when we're listening to this on Spotify, really wants it to sound like Steely Dan.
Every time this ends, they suggest a Steely Dan song. Every time.
I don't know if that's just us, if Spotify's messing with us.
And I'm always like, yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not the time.
But you know, it's really interesting because, I mean, it's very accessible. It's really just a great rock album.
I think you said also, so there's 6 songs on this album, right? 6 songs. 4 of them are slightly longer form. Then you have
6 minutes and over.
Yeah, so then you have the clap, that's sort of like a break, which I think of as kind of the interspersed little songs on Fragile. So you have the clap and Adventure that kind of space things out. You know, the album is very balanced as far as my ears. I've always thought it was a nice, you know, economical sort of album, even though there's some longer songs. There's no giant grand symphonic thing at the end. You know, it's just nice and orderly.
The longer songs are all sufficiently different. All of the longer songs that are beginning to really show off the things that will become, I mean, 100% obvious on the next album. You know, that they had, they were developing, you know, bringing in different styles, but, you know, melding them all into one sound, particularly, of course, more classical things, really. I mean, you know, classical elements. The thing on this album, I think, maybe most emphasizes John Anderson's growth as a songwriter is Adventure, which, you know, being a shorter song,
it still has all the same stuff. It has everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's all there. It's got that kind of jazziness to it that is really interesting. There's some great guitar runs. The harmonies
really nice rhythm. It's kind of
harmonies are great. It's, you know, memorable. The lyrics are straightforward and very John Anderson-y. You know, I mean, it's all there.
Sitting by a river.
Yeah.
In my tunic.
It's all there. The earnestness, the slight hippiness.
Yeah.
But all the harmonies, everything, you know, it's kind of folky, but also kind of jazz. You know.
Yeah. No.
So that shorter song is really just like that's where
really
it's
great.
like, look. It's not that they can just write long songs. They can write the short songs.
Yeah.
You know, they can. Yeah. They've figured it out. He's figured it out.
I love Starship Troopers so much. You know, it's just such a masterpiece of a song. It's got movements and it's so dynamic. And
the guitar is the like flanged guitars.
Yeah, it sounds
iconic.
awesome. I love it. Chris Squire's bass on this album and on so many of their albums.
All of them.
Really. Like, it's so part of their sound. It's such an intrinsic part of that bass sound. It's so prominent and it moves around so much and it's so great and it's such a key feature in so many songs. And when that's missing, you know, you really miss it.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's obviously not missing here.
It's not missing here.
Yeah, I think we've said that in every video. I mean, it's not, to me, it's not a top-notch Yes. You know, like, you don't get top-notch Yes music without that bass being front and center, really.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he was a really special bass player.
Yeah.
You know, I do think this is probably the best. I just think either, depending on who you're recommending, you know, what their tastes are, I kind of always thought, like, this would be the best introduction to Yes, or...
Relayer.
No, or, Tales from Topographic Oceans. Because with Tales from Topographic Oceans, if you like that, you should like all of it, really.
Fragile's easy too.
It is, but this is just this is a more straightforward rock album. You know, if you like Steely Dan, or if you like
Crosby, Stills and Nash.
Well, yes, something that's not considered like progressive rock.
Right.
You could easily still enjoy this album.
And many people did.
You know, Yes was always very mainstream. It's like this does cross over with Crosby, Stills and Nash, or Steely Dan, or the Grateful Dead, or, you know, like that. The same people listen to those things could listen to this.
Yeah.
And you know, although by the time of Tales or Relayer, that may not quite be the case anymore.
Still popular albums.
They were still very popular albums. You know, when I listen to this, I really get the impression that this is exactly the album they wanted to make. They felt they needed to make, of
Yeah,
course.
absolutely.
And really the album that they were capable of making. When you listen to the Yes album and Time and a Word, you know, you feel like you hear this like in there.
Yeah, all the
It's
elements
like
were there already.
You can, I mean, if at the time you may not have quite
Right.
felt that way, but now, retrospectively, you can hear parts of this album.
Yeah.
But they couldn't quite put it together on those two records, and
yeah, everything comes together on this one. It's just perfect. The sound is just, it's there. The songwriting is there. It's awesome.
There's a rawness to it still. Like, yes, you know, could always, of course, you know, play these things live exactly as they were.
Yes.
You know, they there's no studio trickery or anything. This is all just playing and brilliant songwriting and performance.
Yeah.
And there is that kind of rawness to Yes. Maybe rawness is maybe the wrong word, but intensity. There is that, you know, fire that but at the same time these soaring melodies, and that's, you know, this is the album where that really becomes,
that's the blend,
you know,
that's it,
evident. And it's just, some of it's just really magical, really is. Not
like that night at Jones Beach.
Right.
Thank you so much for watching our discussion of the Yes album. Please let us know what you think of this album in the comments. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to States and Kingdoms, and we'll see you next time.